Hi, it's Pip. We are here today. It's Geek Speak. If you're catching the replay, chime in and let us know about your client stories. Today, we are talking about clients and losing them. We've all lost them. Uh-oh, I forgot to mute myself. Oh, sorry about that. Almost perfect, almost perfect. But okay, if I'm going to get back into it, if you don't know me, I'm Pip. I run Seymour Digital Media, and today we have Greg, and he's going to introduce himself. Go for it, Greg.
Hello, everybody. I'm Greg McKinnon with Original 72 Creative, and we are a full service website, graphic design, and digital marketing agency in Vancouver.
Greg often gets cut off and doesn't get to introduce himself properly. Happened this week or last week, the week before. So if you're joining us, tell us what you're doing today, and we're sharing client stories and how to manage losing clients. We're going to dive into mindset, communication, and red flags, and what your frustrations could tell you. So if you're joining us, we're going to unlock some amazing secrets today. Right, Greg? Right?
Yep.
So I'm so excited. I see Jessica's here, Mona's here, Gwen's here. Hey, guys! So glad to see you. Okay, I think I have it dialed so that we can see everything. So, Greg, we're going to get right into it. You look like you're doing something else, though.
Just typing in the group.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Okay, Greg, if I look at my notes, the first thing we're diving into is how to manage you losing clients.
Yeah, I mean, this came up because did you ask me something about a client, or how did it? I don't remember how it came up, but
Um,
we somehow got on the topic of losing clients and how I just brush it off because there's tons of reasons why that client might have left or whatever like that. And then that inspired us to do a talk on the whole thing. So, um, I mean, I've been working for so long in this business. I've had so many clients come and go um, over the years that it really doesn't faze me anymore. So yeah, it's kind of a fun topic to explore because people do a lot of the time take it super serious when a client leaves.
right.
And either they think like what did I do or something along those lines when in fact, there's a ton of reasons why a client chooses to go in another direction and it may not be you at all. So
I think that's what you actually pointed out to me because, I think the famous phrase was, it's not always about you, right? So I thought that was really great. I'm just going to chime in and say Mona is driving and listening to us. That's super cool. Jessica, we're so glad you're here too. Yay. Yeah, I think mindset is everything when it comes to clients. When we're just starting out our business or when we put a lot of time and energy into, trying to deliver and trying to do our best, and we're hit with different things that come up. And, I think we have two clients still from the original clients we had. We still have two. They're special to us. We go out of our way for them because they gave us the greatest opportunity ever. However, we have lost a bunch, and sometimes it's hurt my feelings. People don't often understand the things we do and how hard we try, and I think that's good. Jessica is saying something about leaving. And I love it. I put it on the screen. But if we're getting right into it, like losing clients and how you manage it, is kind of what it's about. Like, do you go the extra mile when somebody's, you know, bailing on you, when they don't value your time or energy, right? Like, how do you look at it?
So, yeah, the way I look at it basically is that I can work with any client, right? And if a client doesn't want to work with me, then that's fine. I'll find another client that does want to work with me. Um, given that there's times when a client decides to just go in another direction, and and the choice to do something else is no reflection on the relationship that you had with that client. They've just chosen to go in a different direction
Right.
sometimes, and that happens. And I help them leave. Um,
See, that's kind of
to
cool.
the point where like I'm killing them with kindness because I've on many occasions have clients leave me just to come back when it didn't go well with the new people.
Right.
Um, yeah, so
Just
basically, I try to completely um, remove any type of personal relationship I have with a client. I mean, it's nice to have that personal relationship, and I do have a good relationship with a lot of my clients. But if they decide to do something else, it's typically not because of the relationship that you have. It's because they're making business decisions for themselves that they feel that they can be managed maybe some better somewhere else, or someone else may be better suited to help them do whatever it is they're doing.
right. I think we all don't want to be replaceable, but the reality is we are. I like what Jessica's saying here about attachment. I think there is, you get attached to your clients and their success. And I think that sometimes when they leave, it can dig in, right? Because you wonder like what is the issue. I think changing your mindset about this and how you look at it is a really big deal. I love, kill them with kindness. The chances of them coming back are huge. We have seen numerous times clients leaving and coming back. They're looking for something else, and I think this kind of brings us right into our next little segment on what I think is really important and what you could be doing wrong in how you're losing a client, and that's communication, right? If you like, we like to set ourselves up so we are answering questions before the questions come up. We can't do it all the time, right? But we can learn from each client and do it better every time. And that kill them with kindness, even if they are leaving, even if you do feel discouraged, just going that extra mile. I think going that extra mile, changes the perception of everything, right?
One of the things I do for my business, it works. I don't want to say it works quite well, but it's almost like a dig, but I don't do it in the way where, haha, you went somewhere else and this is what happened type thing.
Yeah.
I do it as the final sort of goodbye, like, oh, by the way, like I really enjoyed it, our time working, my time working for you, and blah blah blah, and just by the way. And so what I do is when a client leaves, if they go somewhere else to get a new website designed or whatever, I'll periodically look to see the new site when it gets posted. And I'll go through the site, and when I find errors, I'll write an email to the client and say, "Hey, by the way, I really like the new site. It looks great. And just so you know, I saw a couple of things on the site that need to be fixed. Maybe mention this to your guy, just so that they know, like I don't know, I followed up and I looked and I said, hey, that's a nice site, so I'm being supportive, but
Yeah.
also bringing up, hey, there's a couple of things you might want to tell your new person to fix, and that leaves them with a feeling of, okay, like I left him, but he's still in my corner, kind of thing. And all of this is for the purpose of, if something goes wrong in the new relationship, they consider me again later, because nothing actually happened before. They just made a different decision to go in a different direction. So,
And that's important. Jessica, in her field, her field is being a coach, and it gets pretty personal. I understand that. I feel, I've done some marketing coaching, and it turns into personal coaching sometimes, and it is personal. It's so hard to separate these two things, right? And I think if we talk about our communication strategy, work on our mindset. Like all these things really, really can change what happens here, right? Like I love what you do there and that you go above and beyond. I also like when clients give us feedback. I will tell you one thing I've been told. I'm really good at taking constructive criticism. Constructive criticism really helps you grow personally and professionally. Sometimes it's hard to hear. None of us are perfect. I mean, I'm pretty close, but no. No, but just stepping back and realizing that it's bad situations or losing a client. It's just going to make you better in the future. It's going to teach you what you don't want, right? It's going to, like, Greg, do you have clients that the relationship has parted and my gosh, it's a bit of a relief, right?
Yeah, I have a couple.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure we all have. I mean, last year I think I spoke about
one that you have to deal with now.
It's true. So Greg and I have shared a client in the past, and I work with him now, and it's a challenge. He's amazing at business. However, his personal skills at communicating are a challenge sometimes, right? So, but the one thing I learned in my situation with that client is there's a question. There's a question I now ask myself almost daily. And it can be put into other relationships, but it's always like, I think I have a sticky somewhere where it says, where is your client in their journey? Like, what are they going through? And if we can put ourselves kind of there, maybe we can be more understanding, right? Maybe we can identify before we react.
The way I felt with this mutual client, and I think this is a good lesson for people, is that when I spoke with that customer, I knew that anything that was going on with him was a reflection of how he was talking, not a reflection on anything that I had done.
Right.
So the story there is that a lot of times when you're talking with a customer, who knows what's going on in their business, in their life, whatever, and if they're either, maybe a little bit more angry or treating you weird or different, it's not necessarily a reflection on you and what you've been doing for them. It's other factors that they have going on. So realize that and don't take it personal and don't think it's like they're being a certain way necessarily about you. Now, that might not always be the case. Maybe you did do something wrong, but a lot of the time there is a possibility that, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing for a client and they're just having a bad day, they may come across differently and don't take it personally.
Right. It's, and sometimes it's hard. Like in our profession, I don't know if this happens in Jessica's profession, but, or anyone else's profession out there, but I've been yelled at by clients. I will tell you, if we're going to save ourselves some problems, with this, maybe being more picky about the clients we accept. Like, for instance, Greg does not accept that client anymore, and that's why I have them, right? Because you weren't willing to get told off for random things that aren't your fault. Where I seem to like being yelled at randomly. But the other thing is noticing those pink, orange, and red flags, right? Like, is this something you can manage? Sometimes when we start a relationship, that is indicative of how the relationship is going to go. We had a client last year. It was our biggest client we got. And within a month, we knew that we couldn't work with the people because they had veered so far off contract that we were doing a lot of other things that weren't in the scope. And we were waking up and running for these people. And it wasn't worth it,
So maybe that's a good transition into the getting the right clients, or knowing when a client is the right fit for you or not the right fit for you. Because there's many times that I've had people say, "Can you do me a website?" or, Can you do whatever for me? And I know after talking to them for a little bit that this is not going to be a relationship that I want. It's not the type of work that I want to do.
Right.
So determining that early on and not even getting involved with those types of clients will save you hassle in the future when maybe things do go bad, right? So you really have to know your client. You really have to know, and maybe they are the proper client for you, but you don't get along with their personality, or like this customer that we both shared. It would be they're a great cut. They're a perfect customer for me. They're a perfect customer for you, but there's a personality thing there that is just difficult to deal with, and it's easier to say, you know what, I want to save myself the hassle. Maybe you find someone else who's a better fit for you.
Right. And right now I'm hoping I'm still the better fit, but you know what? I might not be in the future. It depends on how much you're willing to take, right? And how much you can give too. Um, one of the reasons I love working with that customer, I know no names, people, is because I get to experiment. I don't have as much experience as you, Greg, especially with websites, and so I got to learn a lot, right? Jessica's saying one of the benefits of being a coach is that you know when your clients are grumpy. I think that's so true. I often wonder, I have a hard time with the coaching thing because they become your best friend. And that leads us into, what clients are to you. Last week we had Haley on, and she talked about, what do you want to be to your clients? Like she said, she wants to be like their best friend. I walked away from that chat and I was like, well, I don't want necessarily my clients to be my best friends, like, because they pay me. And so harder to be really, straight up all the time. But that being said, I want my clients to trust me. And so that's a huge thing, right? That I go out of my way to do my best. And to get over that hurdle of giving your best when you slightly feel slighted if they don't want to work with you, right? It's like, how do you do that? And taking yourself out of that and still giving your best or over delivering in the end, because you might not get a 5-star review, but you need to feel good about how you're walking away, right? Like, and that brings us to the fire or be fired. Which one do you prefer? So chime in, guys, and tell us which one you prefer. Would you prefer to be fired or fire? Greg?
Fired or be fired by a client?
Well, no, you fire the client, or you
No,
get
no. I mean, like you and a client. Would you rather the client fire you or you fire the client? Is
right.
what you're saying?
Yeah.
It depends on the situation.
Right.
I have no problem trying to fire a client if the relationship's just not working or they're not the right the person for me, or if I can't meet their expectations, I will try to say, maybe I can't provide what you're looking for. So there's many of us out there, so maybe it's time to find someone else. I mean, I don't word it like that exactly, but that's the gist of it. You never say you're fired or like I'm not doing anything more for you, so go somewhere else.
Right.
That's not good. But I would prefer to do the firing like that than obviously be fired. I don't think clients fire
Oh, they fire.
us.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean they just leave.
Well, yeah, but they by saying they don't want to work with you, like, and or suspend contract or whatever, they're firing you. I will say, like, in my history, I've had a girlfriend tell me in the past, like, with dating, you just make them hate you until they leave. I'm like, I don't really do that with clients, but to be honest, firing a client for me, super hard, super hard. And would I prefer that they choose to leave? I don't know. You know what? For me, you don't win in either situation. And I do grapple with this. I grapple with not taking things personally. Although I'm tough as nails and I come across super strong, I will tell you I'm a sensitive bunny. I get sad and upset, and I want to do a good job. And I've yet to get a negative review, but I'm sure one of these days it'll come, right? But that just shows I'm a real business. So, Greg, so things we can learn from our client relationships, like it's because it is a lot about mindset and knowing where your client's at, but it's also about the learning process, right? We get better as we go. We cannot be perfect right off the bat, right? Mona's talking about a meme. I love it. Hey, Mona, are you driving and typing?
She must have got to her destination.
Totally did.
She wouldn't do that.
No, I can't see her doing that. But so some of the takeaways, I mean, as we grow in our business, you're going to be way better in the third year than you are in the first, or way better in the fifth, right? You're going to know those red flags and pink flags and orange flags, that you're going to stay away from clients and maybe redirect them to other people or tell them you don't have time. But I think the learning experience of, what you can, if you always ask yourself, well, what could I have done differently? What could I do better? And communication. I think I'm stuck on the communication. I think communication and asking questions like when you initially start, there's so many ways to communicate, right? There's Facebook Messenger, email, phone. So maybe finding out what your client and how they like to communicate best is something that can really steer the direction of a relationship. Ooh, Mona is still driving. She's text to talk, people. Text to talk. I love it.
And there was like no mistakes in that text to talk. Wow. Good phone.
Impressive.
I was gonna say something about communication, and communication is absolutely key to the good relationship. Not only in how you communicate, and how you come across, how you word things, but yes, I think you were referring to the way you communicate, either phone, text, email, messenger, whatever it is. I'm more of a traditionalist, I guess. I like the phone and email. I'm getting into the texting now, but I hate communicating through Messenger or a social platform or anything. I want to be able to track it because I need that history of requests. I've run into issues in the past where someone said they asked for something, and I did it, but then they said they didn't ask for that, or I did it wrong, and I said, you know what? Here's that email where he said, this is what I want you to do.
Right.
So the communication between myself and my customers, I want to make sure that I have a record of everything that was requested, whether there's a dispute on a bill for time spent doing something or in the actual request that was made, to be able to bring that up and resolve that conflict should it come up.
Right. I think I had a situation last week even that, so because I meet some of my clients on Facebook and we have a personal relationship as well as a working relationship, and they've messaged me on some communication place asking for something or giving me some detail. And I'm like, where was that? And like, I am searching. So, I mean, it's something that I have to review and make sure clients know, hey, you know what, send me this kind of stuff through email. I think email is the best. We do a lot of texting, but having that record is essential. That brings up an interesting point. Do you guys ever look back and be like, okay, and reflect on what was done, even if you haven't lost a client, like a weekly reflection on, well, what did I do well? What could I do better? How would what would I toss out? Those three major questions, right, can really help build your business. So we often look back and reflect and be like, we had some billing issues last month and we had to revisit what we're billing, what we're charging, and why. And so it was a really good time to look back and see, where we could improve. Somebody is saying hi. I'm not sure who, but hi. Put them on the
It's
screen.
Sarah.
Sarah. Sarah Pears?
Yep.
Yeah, hi, Sarah. Yay. Lovely you joined us. We're talking client relationships right now and building better relationships. And, right? So, Greg, there were a couple other things that we had in here. You have a dedicated phone number for your business. I think that makes a huge difference too. Something I think I want.
Mm-hmm.
So, who else? Does anybody else have a dedicated phone number for business versus pleasure? And, another question to ask yourself is, what do you want your relationship to be in the future? Is the person you're working with, are they somebody that, you can talk to and be honest with, and, make sure you cater what you're saying. They're not your best friend, but are these people you can approach and say, hey, this isn't working for me, but this is, right? So many important facets here.
There's something I believe I brought up before.
Greg, you brought up a lot of stuff
in the group, but not recently, that I had realized early on, and that was basically that I would only hear from clients when there was an issue, right? Like something would go wrong and they would call and say, like, my website's not working right, or I did this and it's all messed up. So the experience for them and for us was always a negative one when the client called about some issue. So we early on made it a point to continue discussion with clients on a regular basis. We did a lot of e-commerce early on, and so we typically monthly or every second month would contact the customer and say, hey, we've looked at your stats. Your sales are up this month. That's great. How are things going? So that there wasn't always just like everything's running fine, and never have any discussion with the client until something went wrong, and then there's like a negative feeling. So that was really, really something I started doing early on in my first business, and continue to this day, touch base with clients regardless of what the status is. If things are going great, contact them, say, hey, the site's great. It's a good way also to engage and say, hey, have you thought of maybe doing this and drumming up a little bit more work? And it's not always a negative experience when they call.
Right?
Something wrong.
That's actually really funny. Okay, so working at the newspaper, here's the thing. So the newspaper, you had to get all your copy in by a certain date, and then, and then there's a cutoff, and then the paper gets published, and then the very next day, if your phone rings, the very next day, it's an issue. Like, something's gone wrong with ad copy. It's been published. They're noticing it. It's just something you learned in the industry, right? But that was at a weekly. And so, yeah, that making sure you have the ability, like reaching out to your clients on a constant basis is a huge thing. Like, how many of us have had relationships or where we bought a service and we never heard from the person, or we only heard from it when it was, when it was like an issue, right, Greg? Mm-hmm. So Sarah's chiming in here. She says she's had a dedicated line when she connected with a call center. It didn't work. Interesting. We didn't even get into that, but that's an option. And then, the monthly meetings. I think the monthly meetings are something we build into our business now because it helps people feel secure, right? It's that little bit of time to connect with your clients, and your clients really they're like friends, right? They're
definitely monthly meetings if you're doing monthly work. Yeah.
Better than just sending a report, right? Giving the option, if they have time, to communicate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Mona's saying,
because I do mostly web stuff, and when the website's done, I don't need to contact them monthly or have a monthly meeting saying, hey, is it still working?
Right? See, look at this. Sales reps, you hear from them once, then don't hear from them again. Yep. Yeah, some people are all about the sale, and I get that. I like money. But I also like to treat my clients like they are friends. Maybe not my best friend because I have a dog. But, you know,
I don't treat my clients as friends, although I do have a client who has somewhat become a pretty good friend. But the relationship I have with my clients is one where they ultimately they're a client, but I make myself feel like I am part of like an almost an employee of theirs.
right.
We're doing it together.
It,
When I talk about the website or graphic design or their business in general, I say our site or are we going to do this? And I feel that makes a big difference in how they perceive me in being someone who really takes a vested interest in their business and has really got their back.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's you got to have their back. Where the reason people hire us is so they can do better in business. So they can do better in life, right? If you're a coach, but so we're all here to support each other. And yes, team. To be honest, we are the extension of their team. You just save money because you're not hiring someone in house, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's still like you're top of the list. But I don't remember. Okay, the last thing before we go, but in university, all your professors, they'd assume that you were their only class. They didn't care about the other homework you had. And to be honest, your clients don't care about the other clients you have. They don't care if you're too busy. They don't and fair enough, they're living their own lives. So our job is to make them feel like they're important, to make sure we know, to have tenacity when it comes to how and resilience when it comes to dealing with our growing relationships. We all get better over time. Hey Greg, we're out of time. This was such a
We
good
are.
talk. I know we could go on forever. We're a minute over, but I wanted to bring up what we're talking about next week because it's cool. It's cool. Greg, do you know what it is?
I forget.
Oh my God, it's so good. We're talking about competition. Is competition
Oh yes,
your
yes, yes.
enemy? Is it your enemy? Come
You and me, you're my competition. We're gonna duke it out
right. We're
next week.
totally. We're all in this together. We learn from each other. We grow together. So if you are in business and you have competition, next week's for you. Come join us. It's going to be an awesome, awesome chat. Greg, if people are looking for you, wait, let me do this. Well, Greg, if people are looking for you, where can they find you? I'm getting so much better with the video.
They can find me at original72.com or find me in the Facebook group.
Right? And I'm Pip, and you can find me in the group. Today is Socials Day, and there's going to be a post later on today about sharing your business and what you do. Totally want to hear what you guys do. So chime in there. And this is Greg and I, over and out. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much for joining us. Right, Greg?
See ya, everybody.
Bye. Thanks.